Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandehang Sri Guru Sri Tapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishavangscha Sri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vatang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Mitangsha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandho Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate, Tapta Kanchana Gorangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Pre. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we'll begin by chanting, instead of Jai Radha Madhava, we'll chant this shloka together. This is the third verse of the Dashavatar Stotra, written by the great Vaishnava poet Jayadev Goswami. And it's sung to the same melody that we use for the Nrsimha prayers, because that Nrsimha Stotra comes from the same Dashavatar Stotra. Vasati dashana shikare dharani tavalagna Sashini kalanka linevane magna Keshavadrita Shukara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Okay, your turn. Vasati dana shikare dharani tavalagna Sashini kalanka kalevane magna Keshavadrita Shukara Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Dharana Shikare Dharani Tavalagna Sashini Kalanka Kaleva Nimagna Keshavajita Shukara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Vasati dashana shikare dharani tavalagna Sashini kalanka kaleva nimagna Keshavajita Shukara Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Varaha Deva Varaha Deva Varaha Deva Jaya Varaha Deva Jai Jayadev Goswami Ki Jai. So we'll read the synonyms and the translation. Vasati sits. Dashane Shikare upon the tip of your tusk. Dharani, the earth. Tava, your. Lagna, sits fixed. Shashini, of the moon. Kalanka Kala, a faint spot. Iva, just like. Nimagna, which had become immersed in the Garbodak ocean. Keshava, O Lord Keshava of fine hair. Drita Shukara Rupa, who have accepted the form of a boar. Jaya Jagadish Hare. So, Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The earth, which had sunk to the bottom of the Garba ocean, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk like a spot upon the moon. Please repeat. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a boar, all glories to you. The earth, which had sunk to the bottom of the Garba ocean, sits fixed upon the tip of your tusk like a spot upon the moon. So as we know, there are 10 primary incarnations. Many people say of Vishnu what we say of Krishna, because we know from the Shastra, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Ete changsa kala pungsam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indriyari vyakulam lokam, mridayanti yuge yuge. That verse states, from the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto, that all of the incarnations, and there was a list given just prior to the verse, all of them are emanating from Krishna. Krishna is the original form from which all other forms are expanded. So there are 2 categories, the Vishnu Tattva, which are on the same level of Krishna, as personal expansions, and then there are the Jiva Tattvas, you and I, all of us, all living entities who are minute parts and parcels of Krishna. So this Lord Varaha obviously comes in the first category. Now, the modern day scientists will tell us that the pig form, the hog form, evolved over time from simpler forms, and nonsense. It's an eternal form. It's an eternal form. The Lord is eternally situated, expanded as Lord Varaha. So the form of a boar, of a pig, hog, whatever you want to call it, is an eternal form. It's not something that evolves over time in the material world. As I've mentioned several times, if you look at the imprint, the signs on the lotus feet of Krishna and Radharani, you'll see that there's a fish there. So the fish form is not something that evolves in the material world. It's an eternal form. Because the lotus feet of Krishna, the lotus feet of Radharani are eternal. They're not evolved from something simpler. So the form of a fish, all of these symbols that you see on the feet of Krishna and Radharani, these are eternal forms. There's a flag, right? There's an elephant goad, Ankusha. So all these forms are eternal items. They're not something that evolves or created by somebody's figment of imagination. They're eternal. So similarly, this boar form is an eternal form. So today, I'm going to start by just reading different excerpts from the Shastra, explaining or substantiating the position of the incarnations in general and Lord Varaha in particular. And then we will recount briefly the Lord's appearance, and then time permitting we'll read some prayers from the 5th canto that are offered to Lord Varaha. So first we will read something from the 1st canto, 3rd chapter, text 26. Avatara yasankyeya hare sattva nidir dijaha yata vidasina kulya surasak suk sahasrashaha. Srila Prabhupada's translation. O Brahmanas, the incarnations are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water. Purport. The list of incarnations of the personality of Godhead given herein is not complete. It is only a partial view of all the incarnations. There are many others, such as Sri Hayagriva, Hari, Hangsa, Prishnigarbha, Vibhu, Satyasena, Vaikuntha, Sarvabhauma, Vishvaksena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, Brihadbanu, and others of the bygone ages. Sri Prahlad Maharaj said in his prayer, quote, "My Lord, you manifest as many incarnations as there are species of life, namely the aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the men, the demigods, and so on, just for the maintenance of the faithful and the annihilation of the unfaithful. You advent yourself in this way in accordance with the necessity of the different yugas. In the Kali Yuga, you have incarnated garbed as a devotee. This incarnation of the Lord in the Kali Yuga is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many other places, both in the Bhagavatam and in other scriptures, in which the incarnation of the Lord, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explicitly mentioned. In the Brahma Samhita also it is said indirectly that although there are many incarnations of the Lord, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, Matsya, Kurma, and many others, the Lord himself sometimes incarnates in person. Lord Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not, therefore, incarnations, but the original source of all other incarnations. This will be clearly explained in the next shloka. So the Lord is the inexhaustible source for innumerable incarnations, which are not always mentioned. But such incarnations are distinguished by specific extraordinary feats, which are impossible to be performed by any living being. That is the general test to identify an incarnation of the Lord, directly and indirectly empowered. Some incarnations mentioned above are almost plenary portions. For instance, the Kumaras are empowered with transcendental knowledge. Sri Narada is empowered with devotional service. Maharaj Prithu is an empowered incarnation with executive function. The Matsya incarnation is directly a plenary portion. So the innumerable incarnations of the Lord are manifested all over the universe constantly, without cessation, as water flows constantly from waterfalls. Now it's interesting to note that although there are 10 primary incarnations mentioned by Jayadev Goswami, on our Vaishnava calendar we only celebrate some of them, not all of them. So let's go through the list. First, Matsya. Not on the calendar, right? We don't have a Matsya appearance day. Then Kurma. Similarly, we don't celebrate appearance on our, in maybe in other Vaishnava lines, but in our line, I'm speaking directly, we don't celebrate necessarily Lord Kurma's appearance day. You don't see it on the calendar. Then after Kurma, Varaha. Yes, we celebrate. And then after Varaha, Nrsimhadev. Yes, we celebrate. Then Parashuram. We don't celebrate. Then Lord Ramachandra. We celebrate. Then Vamanadev. Vamanadev we celebrate. Then Buddha. Lord Buddha, we don't celebrate. Then Krishna and Balaram, definitely we celebrate. And then Kalki Avatar, we don't celebrate. So it's half and half. 5 of the 10 we celebrate, 5 we don't. But that doesn't mean they're not important. All of the Lord's incarnations as mentioned here, they're all important, but the list is innumerable. So Jayadev Goswami mentions 10 in his Dashavatar Stotra, and we celebrate appearance of 5 of those 10. So next, the light here is kind of bad, but I'll do my best. It's from the 4th canto, chapter 8, text 57. This is Narada Muni speaking to Dhruva Maharaj. Shreshavatara Charitar Achintya Nijamayaya Karishatyuttama Shlokas Tad Jayad Tridayam Gamam. Proper translation. My dear Dhruva, besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations, as exhibited by his supreme will and personal potencies. So we should take that advice also. Although we're focused in our sampradaya on Radha Krishna worship, still we should be aware of and meditate on the other incarnations of the Lord to the best of our ability, as presented by Guru and Shastra. So Srila Prabhupada's purport. Devotional service comprises 9 prescribed practices: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, serving, offering everything to the deity, and so on. Here, Dhruva Maharaj is advised not only to meditate on the form of the Lord, but to think of his transcendental pastimes in his different incarnations. Mayavadi philosophers take the incarnation of the Lord to be in the same category as the ordinary living entity. This is a great mistake. The incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not forced to act by the material laws of nature. The word Shvecha is used here to indicate that he appears out of his supreme will. The conditioned soul is forced to accept a particular type of body according to his karma given by the laws of material nature under the direction of the Supreme Lord. But when the Lord appears, he is not forced by the dictation of material nature. He appears as he likes by his own internal potency. That is the difference. The conditioned soul accepts a particular type of body, such as the body of a hog, by his work and by the superior authority of material nature. But when Lord Krishna appears in the incarnation of a boar, he is not the same kind of hog as an ordinary animal. Krishna appears as Varaha avatar in an expansive feature which cannot be compared to any ordinary hogs. His appearance and disappearance are inconceivable to us. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that he appears by his own internal potency for the protection of the devotees and the annihilation of the non-devotees. A devotee should always consider that Krishna does not appear as an ordinary human being or ordinary beast. His appearance as Varaha Murti, or a horse or tortoise, is an exhibition of his internal potency. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhi. One should not mistake the appearance of the Lord as a human being or a beast to be the same as the birth of an ordinary conditioned soul who is forced to appear by the laws of nature, whether as an animal, as a human being, or as a demigod. This kind of thinking is offensive. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has condemned the Mayavadis as offensive to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of their thinking that the Lord and the conditioned living entities are one and the same. We don't think that, right? Obviously not. Narada advises Dhruva to meditate on the pastimes of the Lord, which is as good as the meditation of concentrating one's mind on the form of the Lord. As meditation on any form of the Lord is valuable, so is chanting the different names of the Lord, such as Hari, Govinda, and Narayana. But in this age, we are especially advised to chant the Hare Krishna mantra as enunciated in the Shastra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now we understand the Lord, by his own will, expands into these different forms, such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, etc. So this Varaha Murti, this Varaha avatar is not some imagination of the devotees, and it's not a forced appearance. It is the Lord's sweet will. Many of you know thoroughly the reasons why Lord Varaha appeared, but we'll just recount briefly how this happened. The Prajapati, Kashyapa Muni, married 13 daughters of Daksha. And amongst those daughters were Aditi and Diti. So Aditi is the mother of the demigods. Through her, Kashyapa Muni produced the demigods. And so Diti had not yet had any children, and she wanted to have children. So she approached her husband, and it's the duty of the husband to do this. As Prabhupada stated many, many times, Putrahinam Griha Shunyam. A marriage, or so-called marriage household with no children, is shunya, considered to be void. In other words, if you don't want to have children, why get married? Marriage is a license for producing the next generation. And in our line, not just for producing children, but for educating them thoroughly in the spiritual path. It's the duty of the parents to do this for the benefit of the child, the children, so that they don't have to take birth again. and also for the benefit of the parents, because if some or other the parents don't make it out of the material world in this lifetime, the child who is properly educated and dedicated to the spiritual path can help to deliver the parents. So, both ways. So anyway, so Diti wanted offspring. She approached Kashyapa Muni, but it was at the wrong time. There's a specific time for doing everything. This is called Titi. To do things in the right time, it's prescribed, or prescribed time for everything. It's called Titi. So she approached a Titi, and not at the right time. So, and the husband said, this is not the right time. But Prophet explains later on in that pastime that because he was not strong enough, he gave in to her demands. So the husband has to be strong, and the wife also has to be strong. Both have to be strong in terms of this inclination to procreate. Prophet said right here in this room one time in the 70s, I think it was 75 or 76, he was explaining to his Grihastha disciples that he said, it's not because the wife smiles, every time the wife smiles there should be sex life. He said, no. He said, all of my female disciples are beautiful, and it's not just because the woman is beautiful that there should be sex life. One has to have sense control. This is Grihastha ashram. If there is no sense control, then it's Grihamedi life. So we have to take this to heart. Just because there's a license for procreation doesn't mean you use that license as you see fit. There has to be intention to produce offspring, and the Titi has to be right also. These things have to be right. So Diti approached Kashyapa Muni at the wrong time, but because he was not strong, he gave in to her demands, and as a result, she gave birth to twin demons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Now, interestingly, Prabhupada says in that description that because Hiranyakashipu came out second, obviously the woman cannot give birth to both babies at the same time when she's carrying twins. One comes out first. So the first one that came out was Hiranyaksha, and then the second one was Hiranyakashipu. So Prabhupada says there that because Hiranyakashipu came out second, he was considered the elder. He was considered the elder because it means that his impregnation was done first, and then his brother second. So the brother came out first, so he was considered the younger brother. But they were both huge demons. You know the story behind that, of how they were cursed. Jai and Vijay were cursed to come to the material world. But anyway, they took birth as demons because the union of the parents were done at the wrong time and in the wrong mood. The mood has to be right, the time has to be right, intention has to be correct. So anyway, Hiranyaksha, being the dutiful younger brother, he always tried to satisfy his elder brother Hiranyakashipu. And being demons, they were satisfied by creating mayhem. So he traveled all over the universe, creating mayhem. Hiranyaksha, Hiranya means gold, so he was always searching for gold. And he took so much gold out of this earth planet and disturbed the earth in other ways that it fell down into the Garba Ocean. Now we know from the Shastra that this universe that we're looking at, this vast, unlimited sky with so many millions and billions of planets, is only half. Half of this universe is filled up with water. That's the Garba Ocean. So you can just imagine how far the earth fell. From being situated in the middle of the empty space, Earth is in the middle planetary systems, and there's 7 up, 7 down. From that position, she fell all the way to the bottom of the Garbadak Ocean. So that's a long distance. So the demigods approached Lord Brahma, what to do? What can we do in this calamitous situation? Lord Brahma started to deliberate. He is the chief of the demigods, and that's why he's referred to as Deva Deva. Once Narad Muni approached him and he used this terminology. Deva Deva Jagaddatur Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja Tadvijani Hi Ajnanam Atma Tattva Nidarshanam. He was expressing some confusion, Narad Muni, because he is born as the son of Lord Brahma. But he was confused. Is there somebody higher than you? So he approached his father, Deva Deva, chief of the demigods, the sustainer of the universe, as far as I can see. Explain to me your position. Are you really the source of everything, the control of everything, creator of everything? So Lord Brahma went on to give him what he asked for, Atma Tattva, the truth of the situation. No, I am not the supreme. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. There, Lord Krishna is the ultimate source of everything. So, while Lord Brahma was deliberating, from his nostril, a small form of a boar appeared. And stated was at first just about the size of a thumb. But within no time, he expanded to completely fill the sky. So Lord Brahma at first was wondering, what is this magnificent? Then he realized, yes, the Lord has appeared to rectify the situation. So Prabhupada also mentions that Krishna, being omniscient, being knowing everything, he knew that the earth was in the bottom of this ocean. You can imagine something falls to the bottom of the ocean. It's dirty, muddy. So to rescue the earth, he had to take the form of an animal who's good at that. So the hogs are good at doing this, rooting around in the mud and stuff like that. So that's why the Varaha form exists. So in that form, he dove into the ocean. And again, it's practically limitless from our point of view. Because if we can't even explore the half of the universe that's open, you can imagine the other half is similarly unexplorable by us. But because he's God, Krishna, he dove down and brought the earth out. Now in the meantime, this Hiranyaksha, because he was so powerful, he was always wanting to fight. So you approach the demigods, nobody could stand in his path. He approached the demigods, please fight with me. No, they all refuse. But Varuni, the god of the water, blessed them that yes, you will meet a personality real soon who will give you a good fight, such a good fight that you won't survive. So he was always eager. Where is this personality? So when he came and he saw Lord Varaha rising out of the water with the earth, he said, "Oh, an amphibious beast." He says, "This earth has been entrusted to us, denizens of the lower planetary system. You cannot take it from us without a fight." So it's stated that Lord Varaha was somewhat pained by these insulting words coming from the demon, but he ignored them. He brought the earth to the surface of the Garbha ocean and infused her with the potency to float, because normally something like this earth planet would not float on water. You put it on water, it's going to sink. But by the Lord infusing her with the potency to float, she was able to float on the water. And then he turned to this Hiranyaksha. And you find this in the 18th chapter of the 3rd canto. Very, very nice verse when Lord Varaha begins to respond to Hiranyaksha's insults. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Satyam Vayam Bho Mana Gochara Mriga Yusman Mridan Mrigaye Gramya Singham Namritya Pashay Pratimukta Sabirya Vikatanam Tabagrinanta Badra. The Supreme Personality of God has said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who's freed from the clutches of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you're indulging, because you're bound up by the laws of death." So this is the situation of the demons. Even though they're bound up by the laws of death, they have the audacity to threaten God. They always want to kill God, either directly, like Hiranyaksha wants to do here, or indirectly by philosophy. God is dead, there is no God. This is the indirect method of trying to kill God. But Hiranyaksha was trying to do it directly. So he said, "Stand and fight. When I hit you with my mace, all the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, they will cease to exist, because they exist just to worship you." Like that. So Prabhupada explains that the demons are always envious of the devotees. So they want to not only kill God, they want to get rid of God's devotees also. So anyway, a fight ensued. The Lord agreed to fight with him. And at some point in time, it seems like the demon was winning. But everything he tried, he threw his mace, the Lord just knocked it down with his hoof. And he tried to embrace him and squeeze him, and the Lord appeared outside of his arms, and like that. Everything he tried, he was frustrated. But the day was going, and the night was approaching, and so the demigods are asking the Lord, please get rid of him, because when the night comes, the demons become stronger. And we see that in our own experience in life, that the demons take shelter of darkness. A lot of demonic activity takes place at night. They love that. They love the shelter of darkness. And so, but they had nothing to worry about. It's kind of a conundrum, or hard to understand how the demigods, they're intelligent enough to understand that this is an incarnation of God, but at the same time they're worried that he's going to lose the fight. God cannot lose a fight. So it's just because of feelings of love for the Lord that the devotees are worried. Just like Mother Yashoda worries about Krishna all the time. Krishna is God, he cannot be killed or hurt in any way. But out of love, Mother Yashoda is worried about Krishna's safety. So Prabhupada says this is the highest form. This is the form of love exhibited in Vrindavan. Is the highest form, because they don't really know if Krishna is God or not, but they don't care. Sometimes they sit down and discuss, who is this boy who has appeared in our community? He has done so many wonderful things. Some say, oh, he may be a demigod. Well, whatever he is, we love him anyway. And that's the mood of the denizens. So the demigods are not exactly on that level, but they do have some love for the Lord, some attraction. So they're worried that he may lose a fight. So they're saying, please dispatch him. So the Lord, after such a long fight, it seemed that the demon had a chance to win just by a little tap of his hoof on the ear of the demon, and he fell dead. Varaha ki jai. So just as we say that the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev is the disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu, so similarly the appearance day of Lord Varaha is the disappearance day of Hiranyaksha. Just like that. So we worship Lord Varahadev. We should take shelter of Lord Varahadev, just like we take shelter of Lord Nrsingadev for protection. If Lord Varaha can give protection to the entire earth planet, then he can certainly give protection to the individual earthlings like you and I. And it's also interesting that when Lord Chaitanya appeared, he declared that he was not God, because he was in the mood of a devotee and he didn't want to be worshipped as God. But he did exhibit symptoms of God. He showed his signs of his divinity at different times. So there's one verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I'd like to read. This is the Adi Lila, chapter 17, text 19. It says, Varaha avesha haila murari pavane, tanara skande chari Prabhu mut nachila angani. So, Prabhupada's translation, one day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt the ecstasy of the boar incarnation and got up on the shoulders of Murari Gupta. Thus, they both danced in Murari Gupta's courtyard. And a short purport. Prabhupada states, one day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to cry out, Shukara, Shukara. Thus, crying out for the boar incarnation of the Lord, he assumed his form as the boar incarnation and got up on the shoulders of Murari Gupta. He carried a small gadu, a small water pot with a nozzle, and thus he symbolically picked up the earth from the depths of the ocean. For this is the pastime of Lord Varaha. Lord Varahadev ki jai. So we'll leave some time for anybody else's remembrance of Lord Varaha, or any questions, comments. I think Ananda Kirtan had you beat, Maharaj, so we'll let him go first. No. We'll go in order of hands being raised.
In one of the purports you were reading, Prabhupada said that there's as many incarnations of Krishna as there are species. Then he says vegetables, reptiles. So there's like broccoli incarnations of Krishna and snails. And
I can only repeat what the Shastra says. I cannot point out to you that in such and such period Krishna appeared as a broccoli. But all I can say is maybe that's why I like broccoli so much. I don't know. So yeah, we take it because the Shastra says he appears in every species. And we know 8,400,000 species. So Krishna can and apparently does appear in all of those species. Yes, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. You great storyteller.
Hare
And
Krishna.
a lot of wonderful philosophy inserted within the story. So this is greatly appreciated by myself, and I'm sure all the devotees here.
Srila
I just
Prabhupada.
had one or two very short questions. I may have not heard it, and you may have said it. You mentioned a few times that the time that Diti wanted to have sexual intercourse with her husband Kashyapa Muni was at the wrong time. But I don't know if you defined what the wrong time meant. If you want to say that, what it was, then you may go ahead and do that, or I can do that. It doesn't really matter to me. But I don't think, did you say what the wrong time, did you define what the wrong time meant? If you did not, you can say it now, or I'll say it. Either
Well, the wrong time can be many different times. In other
time?
words, there's a right time that's prescribed for that activity. So any other time besides that is considered the wrong time.
Yeah, okay, the wrong time actually, specifically, concretely, was when Lord Shiva, he was passing with his
Yeah.
entourage. So that was considered wrong because it would be disrespectful and irreverent. When a great soul is passing, that's not the time to have sexual intercourse. So that was the wrong. Nonetheless, as you mentioned, Kashyapa Muni was rather weak in one's respect, and he yielded to the passion of Diti. So that's all I'll say now. There was one other little thing, but whoever else would like to go now, I can always raise my hand again.
Yes, sure. Well, speak in the microphone so the internet can hear what your question is.
Can you kindly explain how Jai and Vijay are connected with Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu?
You know this story. Well, the four Kumaras, who are sons of Lord Brahma, they were powerful enough to go to Vaikuntha at their own will. They didn't have to wait, to die and, qualify in that way. So they decided they wanted to go to Vaikuntha. So on their way into Vaikuntha, they passed so many gates, and when they came to the seventh gate, Jai and Vijay, who were kindly protecting us all the time, protecting this temple, they were the gatekeepers and didn't recognize the stature of the four Kumaras. They just saw these four naked boys approaching the gate, and about 5 years old. And usually a 5 years old boy like our Abai is 4 years old now. So similarly like that. Generally, they're not necessarily up to the best of intentions. So they stopped them. No, you can't come here. And so the Kumaras were shocked. Nobody stopped us so far, and you're stopping us? You don't belong here. You obviously don't have good intel. In other words, they got upset, they were offended, and they cursed them to take birth in the material world. Now, very nice section, you should read it if you haven't read it in a while, of how Lord Vishnu handled the situation, how he came out, he pacified the Kumaras, that yes, I'm very sorry if my servants offend you. That means I take it that I've personally offended you, and I'd rather have my arm cut off than to have Vaishnavas offended, devotees offended like that. So the Lord took it seriously, and so we should also take it seriously. Sometimes we offend others and we just brush it off, but if somebody offends us, we take it very seriously. But we have to look at it. No, if I offend somebody, Prabhupada actually said once that before you fall asleep at night, you should play back the entire day's activities in your mind, and you should see, have I offended anybody? And if you identify that, yes, I offended somebody during that day, then you should go to the person the next day and apologize. Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, we don't realize what we've done or said or whatever. But when we are able to calm down, and this is what you should do before taking rest, calm down, review the whole day, and if you remember, yes, I said something wrong, nasty, or I ignored somebody, or even just to ignore is an offense. This appears later on in the pastimes before Lord Vamana's appearance, where Aditi was upset, and when her husband Kashyapa came home, the first thing he asked, did you not properly receive a guest? Did you ignore somebody? Like that. To ignore somebody, to not receive them properly, that's also an offense. So we should do that. So anyway, the Lord took it seriously. He said, my service offense, I take it as my own, and I will not counter. I could counter the curse, but I'm not going to do that. But I will give them the option. They can take birth 7 times as devotees and then come back to Vaikuntha, or 3 times as demons and then come back to Vaikuntha. So Jai and Vijay, they opted for the shorter duration. They opted for the 3-time visit to the material world. And so the first birth of that duo is as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Okay? I saw Mother Rambaru's arm go up. Did you have a question or a comment? Would you give her the microphone, please?
This is really probably kind of not really important, but I was curious why Vaishnavas choose to celebrate 5 of those incarnations, but the other 5 not. How do they choose which ones not to? And
I don't have a reason. Again, this is in our sampradaya. But there are 4 Vaishnava sampradayas. Maybe in other sampradayas they do celebrate the appearance of Lord Kurma or Lord Matsya. But in ours, it has not been emphasized. So, even though we know Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave his son Bhaktisiddhanta Kurma deity to worship.
Yeah.
So it's not that we don't overlook them or minimize them in any way, but they're just not. They don't appear as one of the major celebrations that we participate in.
Interesting question. Thank you. That's it.
Maharaj.
Again, I may have not heard your answer due to my unfortunate inattentiveness, but did you mention the exact way in which Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha? You did mention.
Yes, I did.
Okay. That's all.
He tapped him behind the ear with one hoof. Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. One other point. It was such a furious and exciting and horrendous battle. And this was all play. This is all fun. That was one of the reasons, as you were just mentioning, that the Lord incarnated and came down, because he wanted to have a little bit of fistic or wrestling play with, and the best one to do that, of course, would be his devotees. So here it was an example of that particular thing, where the fight is really furious, but the thing is a lot of infighting. So who is more worthy, who is more deserving to have that closeness, that touch of the Supreme Lord than the devotee, even though it is in a apparently aggressive and hostile manner.
Yeah.
But that gives the Lord a chance to express certain of those kinds of feelings, which he normally does not with his devotees. Therefore, the idea is that he got a chance to express those kinds of feelings or wrestle with his devotees. That's all.
Yes, Jai Maharaj. Yes, that's why it's not easy to understand the pastime of the Lord, because here is a pastime involving devotees who have come from Vaikuntha specifically to fight with the Lord. But in the meantime, many other living entities got killed. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they killed a lot of entities all over the universe. So somebody may wonder, the Lord wants to come to the world and fight. Why doesn't he just come and fight? Why does he allow these demons to kill so many other apparently innocent people? So it's not so easy to understand. But we should know that any pastime of the Lord, everything is properly adjusted. Everything is properly adjusted. Even the demons themselves, when they're killed, it's a positive thing. And that's why Krishna is known as the all-good, absolute, supreme personality of God. Everything that he does, everything that he's involved in is all good. There's no bad. Yes.
So in the beginning of the class, you quoted from the first canto of the 3rd chapter, the Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam. And then you mentioned how there's other people that think that Vishnu is the source of all incarnations, even other sampradayas that are considered bona fide sampradayas apparently have this misconception. And also, this is kind of a 2-part question.
Well, let's deal with that part first.
Okay.
Yes. So we don't argue with them. If somebody wants to think like that, we don't argue with them. But we're in a particular sampradaya. Lord Brahma is the first created being in the universe. And he says, Govindam Adipurusham Tamahang Bhajami. He says Krishna is the topmost. So we're in that line and we accept that. If somebody in another line wants to accept some other conclusion, we don't fight with them. We don't argue with them. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we don't even argue with the Christians. At least they have the conception of God. There's a supreme being. But they may not be worshiping him on the highest level or in the way that we recommend. But we don't argue with them. We just present our philosophy. And if it's attractive to them, fine. If it's not, we don't argue with them. We don't try to change. We're not a sampradaya of conversion. We don't try to convert anybody. So we don't try to convert other sampradayas to think like ours. We don't try to convert even Christians to think like us. We just present our philosophy that we get coming down from Lord Brahma. This is the philosophy that we've been handed, not created by me or you, or it's been coming down in parampara, and we distribute it to the public. And some people will get it right away. Some people will argue, no, our path is better. Well, that's up to them. Our business is simply to pass on what we got in total and intact. Don't change anything. Not just because so many people believe it's Vishnu, okay, then we'll change in our books at Vishnu. No. In our Sampradaya, Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the supreme source of everything, including all the Vishnu forms. So we don't argue with them.
Second part of the question, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's really strong statements saying that one who worships Krishna without knowledge of Lord Chaitanya is considered an atheist. So would this also apply to other Sampradayas because they don't really recognize Lord Chaitanya?
If it stays so in the Shastra, then it is so. But that doesn't mean that everybody in other Sampradayas don't recognize or know Lord Chaitanya. Some of them may, some may not. Again, we don't worry about these kind of things. Just go out and present with, like you're doing very nicely every day, practically. Just go out and present the philosophy that we've been handed down in the form of Prabhupada's books. Just give it out. And some people will be attracted and some won't. I know I was attracted from the very first sentence I read that Prabhupada wrote. Very first sentence. Krishna, that sound is transcendental. Krishna means the highest pleasure. This is the beginning of Reservoir of Pleasure, which is the first book that I got, first pamphlet. First sentence grabbed me. So some people are like that. The very first thing they read in Prabhupada's books, they're grabbing. Other people, they can read it for years and years before it sinks in. Because it's a matter not just of intellect, it's a matter of your heart. Where is your heart? How pure are you? Where is your heart situated? If we're near Matsaranam, like Narata was stressing yesterday, second verse of the Bhagavatam. If you're non-envious, then you pick up right away. But if you're full of envy, which ultimately means envy of God, then it takes a while for it to sink in. And somebody can be externally very religious, we know, and internally very envious. So, but again, we don't worry about that kind of stuff. We only worry about getting ourselves motivated to go out and give this message to others. And how they react with it, interact with it, that's up to Krishna. We leave that up to Krishna. So again, some will come right away, the low-hanging fruit, which is what we're trying to pick. And some will maybe take lifetimes before it really sinks in. That's not up to us. Okay, Lord Varaha Dev ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada.
Should I speak?